Imagine going to the grocery store where there isn't a nutrition label, a sell before date, or a single way to compare prices to other goods. Ladies, imagine there never being talks about the equal pay or women's rights in the workplace or the glass ceiling. What do these two totally different things have to do with one another? That would be Esther Peterson. Esther Peterson was born Esther Egerson, December 9, 1902, in Provo, Utah. She was of Danish descent and was educated in public schools for the majority of her life. She eventually graduated from Brigham Young University, and she was also one of 6 children. Esther's first encounter with labor issues started with the Heartbreaker strike, where young ladies were trying to make house dresses for $1.32 per dozen. When the company changed the dress pockets from square to heart-shaped, it took more time to sew, thus causing less pay. The young girls went on strike against the company who changed these standards. Whenever Esther joined them on the front lines on the picket line, she realized that how a group of people could come together as a collective voice and change their outcome. Esther became a prominent voice for women, joining several workers' unions where she fought for women's rights and gender equality in the workplace. Some of the unions that she belonged to were the American Federation of Teachers, the Amalgamated Clothing Workers Union, and the AFL-CIO. In 1944, Esther was appointed the first female lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Whenever she joined her first meeting, the gentleman in the room stood up, and to which she said, "Please don't stand up for me. I don't intend to stand up for you." Esther was eventually assigned to John F. Kennedy because she was new, and at the time, John F. Kennedy was thought that he wouldn't amount to anything. Her main focus on Capitol Hill was increasing the minimum wage from 40 cents to 75 cents, and she also worked to get industries covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act, which established minimum wage, work hours, and overtime pay, along with child labor laws. In 1961, John F. Kennedy became president, and Esther was appointed by John F. Kennedy as Assistant Secretary of Labor and as the Director of the Women's Bureau. The Women's Bureau administered gender issue labor laws and she also established the National Women's Committee on Civil Rights. Esther was a key component in the passing of the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which established the principle of equal pay for equal work regardless of gender. With JFK's blessing, Esther created the Presidential Commission on the Status of Women, to which she appointed Eleanor Roosevelt to chair. Esther was the highest-ranking female in the Kennedy administration. She served as the Assistant Secretary of Labor for Labor Standards, which enforced wage, work hour, health, and safety protections. After the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Esther went on to become President Johnson's Special Advisor for Consumer Affairs. This is where she worked on consumer goods with the sell prices, the ingredient listings, and developed a way to price per unit, which allowed you to compare different goods' prices to one another. Esther would go on to serve a similar way to President Carter and was eventually awarded by President Carter the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1981, which is the highest civilian award anyone can get here in the United States. In 1993, President Clinton named the 87-year-old as a delegate to the United Nations General Assembly. Esther Peterson passed away at 91 years young on December the 20th, 1997 in Washington, D.C. As you can see, Esther Peterson has made an impact on our everyday lives, whether it's in the grocery store or in the workplace or looking at women's rights. Esther Peterson has made significant contributions not only to women but the American people, and has shown us how we can collectively change our outcomes in work, at home, and in our government. When asked what advice she would give to young people, Esther stated, "I'm not the one who feels that you have to be brave and be a star, but your life can be satisfying and happy if you work to make a difference. Maybe the difference will just be a little tiny piece and not a big difference, but the point is to make a difference by the way you live your life." Thank you very much.